From boardroom meetings to bedtime stories, Coffee in the Barn explores the delicate dance of balancing the demands of our professional lives with the joys and responsibilities of being moms. Join us each week as we discuss the latest trends in agribusiness, share insightful interviews with industry experts, and sprinkle in some heartfelt anecdotes about the humorous and heartwarming moments that come with being a working mom in agriculture.
Well, welcome back to this week's episode of Coffee in the Barn with Morgan and Casey. Yes, it sounds different. Casey's taking the lead. Let's get back now. But Morgan, what have you been up to since we were last physically together in Des Moines, Iowa?
Well, last time we were together, Casey and I attended the Elevate Women in Ag conference summit. It was the day before World Pork, and I would say 50 women or so were at the event. I was only able to attend the social the night before the event, but this was an event that Zinpro put on and sponsored through Kaylee Kepi.
Yes.
Kaylee Kepi McDonald. And she was kind of the spearhead behind this event. And it was not necessarily targeted towards how we can incorporate our lives within agriculture, but more outside of how do we support women within the agriculture allied business space. And so I really enjoyed the night that I was there. We had a speaker from the House of Color.
So everybody, let's go ahead and edit that a little bit. So before we dive into the fun we had, Morgan, at Elevate Women in Ag, I think I wanted to point out something very key about the name. So Elevate Women in Ag, we attended World Pork Expo. It was geared towards women in the swine industry. And I think they did a very smart job as Zinpro. They said that, right? Because I'm hoping Zinpro is going to take this out into other species and other events and grow this. This is what I would love to see. And I'd also say what's very interesting of helping Kaylee behind the scenes kind of give her ideas or spur this as part of her coaching program that you heard on previous episodes is what was fun about it was the fact that it was different. A lot of times I hear about some women's and ags events and it goes into a lot more, how do you do this in ag? We talk a lot about being influencers in ag. And you guys have heard me on my soapbox. I don't want to stand up there and have to be driving the tractor or working pigs because it's hard to get videos for that in my job and be, conscious of my customers and respect their privacy and respect their biosecurity and the public perception, right? So it can be very negative if I do stuff like that as a professional for my customers and myself and just being attacked. So you have to be cautious about what we put out on social media. And I've learned a lot. But I thought it was really cool that they did that. And it's like everybody says you buy a red car, you start seeing red cars everywhere where you didn't think anybody had a red car. And I didn't realize how many different women's programs are out there for women in ag. And I think it's kind of cool that everybody's starting to support that. I did like the difference of this program compared to others. And Morgan, since you could only kind of attend the kickoff and the social events the Monday before, I'll let you kind of give the highlights of the Monday evening event because I think there were some really good takeaways from that evening.
Yeah, so I was only able to attend the Monday night social, and we had, drinks, appetizers, got to meet other women within the industry that I think we might have seen in passing, but never really had a common ground to possibly network with. And then we also had the privilege of listening to Crystal Blynn with House of Color talk about, how do we dress for success and how how to put our best authentic self forward. And I really enjoyed that part because I'm not a shopper. I don't like buying clothes. I've always just really not enjoyed it. And for the most part, I have Stitch Fix. Just buy my outfits or send me a box every couple months. If I do need something specific, I'll, go buy a white t-shirt or whatever. But I don't do a lot of shopping. And just listening to how Crystal talked about how different colors complement your skin tone and just kind of reflect your personality really spoke to me, because sometimes, days where you just throw something on and you like think you look cute and everyone's like, "Oh, where'd you get that? Where'd you get this? You're looking great today." And then other days you like wear something else and you don't get
You
any
think you're looking great and no compliments, right?
And then like as I think back, I'm like, okay, well that day I was wearing a specific color that must accentuate my personality or just make me look more me, I guess. And so I've actually never gotten my colors done. So it's a whole couple hour ordeal where you go sit in a studio and they take a bunch of different swatches and hold different colors up to your skin and see which ones, make you look washed out or which ones complement your skin tone the best. And it was really interesting on how once you get your colors done, they're always going to be the same. And then they talk about, if you're someone that gets your hair cut or colored, what colors are best going to fit your personality and your style, as well as, for me, I'm only 5'4", and, after graduating college and high school, you have to get your suit for uniforms. You have to get your dress suit for interviews, and, what length jacket do you wear? Do you wear one that goes over your butt, at your waist, etc.? And Crystal explained that, they measure your legs and your torso and your body in different areas and give you suggestions on what actually is the best length pant, jacket, where you should put your belt, just to kind of help accentuate either like your legs or your torso, or help you look the best way that you can. And so I've never gotten it done, but I'm hoping in the future to take advantage of doing that. And I think that, one takeaway I had from it was that there should be a class like for graduating seniors in high school or college to, get their colors done.
I was going to say, it's on my list. I am going to get it done. I don't know when. Maybe that's my birthday gift that I buy myself and go up to Kansas City, or hopefully maybe there is even somebody in this area that does it. But I did reflect on it. And so one thing she said is everybody should wear lipstick.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh yeah, lipstick just, if I don't wear any other makeup, mascara and lipstick just sets my skin apart. And I'm not that one that really needs a lot of makeup. And I've always struggled. Do I want to look like the really polished people that just look so put together? And I'm like, I can never pull it off. I'm sure a professional makeup artist can make me look good. But going back and practicing that, I would agree. A lipstick just totally changes how your face brightens up, as long as the right tone. Because I have a few that I'm like, oh my gosh, they make me look like a dead vampire.
Well, I can tell you're wearing lipstick today. I am not.
Yeah, I am. I put some eyeshadow on, and then everybody's really liked my gray blonde look, and I said, okay, I'm going to embrace that. I used to love coloring my hair different colors and stuff, and I'm like, I'm getting the compliments on this light color. I probably should say, and here's the funny thing, it's my natural color, right?
Yeah.
I was a blonde when I was a kid, and the white is natural, so it's very easy for me. I've learned that I'm probably actually a cool color person, even though I wanted to fight that. So I really love to wear blues. Not sure I'm in my color family, but I'm doing my own house of color. Another takeaway I found from her was the fact that black, right? We have to wear black. And everybody's like, that's all I have in my wardrobe. And I'm like, okay, well, get a bright lipstick then, or get some necklace. Like, this is not so bright if you were watching the video, but what can you add to that? In even picking jewelry of tone, and I'm finding, white gold's always been my favorite, or copper versus yellow gold. And I think that probably has to go a lot into color theory, and I didn't realize that. You see behind me if you're watching the video. Look at the colors above me, and I put a lot of design into my cards on color. And my aunt's always said I've had, compared to all the other quilters and artists that she's trained, that I have a sense of colors and others don't. So I really think there's a lot to that, but to focus on yourself and not marketing, like we probably do in our careers, was really fun. The other thing about Crystal that was really cool is I think she knew Kaylee from judging, and she used to be a cattle rancher.
Yep.
Have cattle. She worked in ag. She's worked for some amazing stuff in marketing and different things. And she gave her story. It was, and this, and this. I thought that was right. Cattle farmer and this. And her talk was also very empowering to me, from the fact, she totally went different direction, and her husband and her want to give back to youth, right? They want to mentor, support youth in their community. They bought a bowling alley and they got rid of cattle so they could do that. And she's still right in agriculture. She still has actually probably a better ability to tell ag story than anybody to people who aren't in ag. And I loved it, but that gave me courage for, hey, I'm going to wear my girly color clothes and get rid of these stupid polos that I hate, but thought I wanted to blend in with everybody else in ag. I'm going to dress like Casey, not everybody else. So, yes, I had to wear polos, and sorry, Norel, but maybe just once. Or if I'm doing bleeding chickens, things like that, clothes I can get dirty. But I'm going to try to be Casey in how I dress. I've been trying to be more feminine, just everyday stuff. And then the other thing is, I was scared to go into a new path. And we talked about cats on the last thing, right? But it's her story gave me courage beyond the color theory and the way to live my life from a fashion perspective. But it's okay that I want to start working with cats and dogs. I can still work with pigs. I can still help pigs, but I shouldn't feel ashamed or feel like I'm walking away, that I'm redefining who I am, maybe a little bit, but also that who I was brings a lot of strength into the new me. And I was really struggling with the direction I wanted to take my business, that it's not just pigs, and thus the whole rebranding to Animistic and all that we're going through. But it gave me the strength to hear her story, to say it's okay to live my story and I don't have to apologize. This is what I want to do.
Right.
And Morgan, you may just always want to be a swine nutritionist, and that's cool, but I don't. And I'm living my version of success and my dream. But yes, I'll still hang out with you pig guys, but and I can still help. But I want to help more people, and I have to branch out how to do that, right? Animals taught me how to love people, and my mission in life is to create and help people go from surviving to thriving. And that includes the pets we love, that includes the training that I'll be doing. And I do owe a lot of that listening to Crystal's story and learning from her, that I can still be that swine enthusiast, but I may not always be in swine meetings. I may be in other meetings. But I think talking to pet owners and pet influencers, even about ingredients in dog food's important, to suggest that, hey, we're not evil people raising pig or beef or chicken to put in your diets. So I think I'm going to embrace that, and I appreciate that from Crystal.
Yeah, I really appreciated how she framed, she's a cattle rancher and this. Or growing up, she was in dance and then came home and did chores. And I really resonated with that messaging because I was in sports, I was in band, I was in multiple different things growing up, and I never really fit into that typical basket of like, the popular group or a band geek, or how, when you're growing up, there's the different classifications of just high school.
It's like this or that. And she's like, no, it's this and that.
Yes. I was never this. I was never a this or that person. I was this and this and this and this. And, now I'm a swine nutritionist and a mom. And I enjoy doing triathlons. Like
and an influencer and a
podcaster.
Yeah. I'm like, but I think so many times we get in our head, and I'm saying just recently, right? I'm getting out of my head as well to say, I don't have to be a mom or a professional. I'm and.
Yeah.
And may look messy. It may not look balanced. It may not look sexy all the time.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
And being your authentic self in doing everything that you do. This and that and that.
Yeah. I'm going to try to do that. Even bleeding chickens, I'm going to have my lipstick on next time. We'll see how that goes. Usually 6 a.m. is like, that's the thing I forget to put on if I have to be out the door by 6.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes when you're just like going through the motions of growing up or whatever phase of your life that you're in, there's a lot of outside influence and people telling you that you can't do this or you can't be that. And I was never someone to kind of just fit the mold. I carved my own path, and I still am, in different areas of things that I'm working on. And so just listening to somebody else talk about kind of how they navigated something that and I'm sure everyone else is going through and at different points in their life, just kind of hearing somebody else talk about it and putting a frame of reference to it. And you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm going through. It might just look different.
No, I agree. It was really fun. It was a comfortable environment. I loved the fact that Zach and a couple other male colleagues from Zimpro were there. And throughout the program, they had some good questions because they're like, what color looks good on a guy? And I'm like, oh, we got to get these guys to go do their color theory too. I'm like, that was hearing Zach say that was pretty great. I think it was just important, as I said, this came from ideas of the seminar I did a few years ago now at Midwest Animal Science on women, and how I was impressed with as many men in the room wanting to learn how to support their female employees or colleagues, wives. I think that's really important. And we're going to get into some discussions around this because I think this ebb and flow on gender, we keep bringing that up. This podcast is not just for women. We happen to be women and we happen to be moms. So obviously you're getting a lot of that, and this is also opportunity for you to learn how to apply it for you. If you're not a woman, if you're not a mom, there's stuff here for you to learn. And I think going there, it was awesome to hear the women listening to our podcast that necessarily aren't moms yet, but finding value in this podcast and being part of our tribe, and we're being part of their lives and part of their voice too. And that was great feedback of hearing, oh yeah, I've been listening to the podcast. I absolutely love it. For us as hosts of the Coffee in the Barn and re-bringing this out. And I know we had a break, but I think that's probably a smart way that we are doing things because we can produce better content than just saying, well, we have to fill the weeks. And the second day that you weren't there, thanks to the Hubbard Alltech internal meetings that you could not just slip away.
I was gonna ask,
And
how was the rest of the meeting?
we are going to have Casey Boyles on our podcast soon, and it's coming up. It may not follow this one, or it may. So, yet to be determined. But she's with AgriMinds. She's a coach, and she teaches people how to, work-life balance, get out of their career stuff, their mindset, like a mindset coach primarily. But she's also a certified trainer for Working Genius. And I made all my employees take it after I got back. And I found it really valuable. And you're like saying color theory, right? I almost think a Working Genius and some of these personality tests need to be done in high school, because we get set. I was just having a conversation with Dr. Kim Livingston and how she's trying to mentor younger people. And she's like, yeah, everybody wants to send them to be vets. And they don't realize what a immunologist does or this does. And I think understanding where you're a zone of genius, I'm like, oh, this so makes sense. I totally agree with my zone of genius and why certain things frustrate me. And I had to say, I found out that I'll bring you great ideas. I'll bring you solutions, and I'll tell you if they'll work or not. That because my Working Genius is it's an I, like an innovator, which is problem solving, and a discerner. So like, does it work or not? And I'm like, yep, that fits me very well. But I'm not a cheerleader, which is like a galvanizer, and I can't think of tenacity, the T, right? The G and the T's. Those are my weaknesses, my frustrations. Because if you don't like my solution, I don't care. But to do sales, you kind of almost have to keep pushing. And I'm like, maybe someday I'll have the right solution for you. But if you don't like me, I'm like, and you don't find it of value, I did my part, right? And I move on. And I found like in sales roles, being that cheerleader, I'm just not that. I'm here to help you. I want to be your partner and work with you with solutions and figure out if it works or not, it doesn't work. And I'm okay with it working or not working. Where some people, they get on projects, they want it to work no matter what, even though the ROI is not just there and we can't sell the damn product, but because they invested millions of dollars in a project, they want to keep it going because they're galvanizers and they have tenacity. And I'm like, the ROI's not there. Let's move on.
Yeah, we did some personality testing too internally, the saboteurs, and talked about our strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. But just through some conversations with some colleagues over the last couple of weeks with different situations going on, we were sitting in a meeting and one of them called me Mother Hubbard. Growing up, my nickname was Mother Morgan because I always like, I enjoy helping people. And, if someone comes to me with a problem, I'm going to do my best to like figure out a solution or help them in any way that I can. And that's kind of always, I would say that's my mothering instincts, is just like taking care of everyone. And one of my colleagues called me Mother Hubbard. And I was like, actually, that fits really, really well because growing up, I was always Mother Morgan. Like I always had the Band-Aids or the snacks, or I was always prepared and like always trying to figure out how to help people. And I was like, okay, no, that works.
And I thought it was really fun. And we did it like the group of a table. And so we saw, and obviously we sat with people we didn't always work with, but it was kind of really important as a leader looking at this and be like, and why I made my team take it. I'm like, man, I need to get some G's and T's on my team. And I do have some that are G's and T's. So I'm like, So it was an eye-opening of building a team where I know where I'm frustrated at. Now I've been delegating those tasks. But very interesting. Then to kind of close it out, we had a panel of women leaders. I can't remember everybody who was on the panel, so I'm not going to name all their names, but you would know them if I said their names. And we just talked about work and life and child and having children and balancing stuff. And I just think we need to do it more of getting people up there and not being afraid. And I learned that through my symposium at Midwest Animal Science. And then sitting on this of how influential this is and like investing in yourself, taking the day. And obviously, most of them probably got permission from work to go and they didn't have to take vacation. But, what I took away from the first day and then the second day was hugely valuable. And I didn't go in there thinking I had no expectations for the event. I don't necessarily need to talk about children work-life balance. I'm here talking about that to help others, right? Navigate that careers. I do that. But even at a different point in my life, in my career, I pulled huge values from it. I was shown that I didn't have as much confidence in some things that I thought. And I had to reflect on that to say, it's okay to be a swine nutritionist and a pet nutritionist and a poultry nutritionist, even though the world thinks you should just be good at one thing. Yeah. And, for me, that's been a game changer of my mindset and my business push. And from another thing, I never thought I could work with cats and have my dream and work with pigs. And here I am doing that. And I just feel like going to that event, unless I don't get invited to something that for 2025, there will be an event like that on my calendar, like an in-person event, because the virtual stuff had not been as helpful for me to go and invest in myself a day, 2 days because there's something for everybody to learn. And I think even the gentleman in the room had great insights, great questions. Zach was asking questions about how to support his wife, how to support Kaylee as his employee. And this has been part of her growth and her leadership. And he, supporting and championing that for her and us women in ag beyond Kaylee to see that, right? That's kind of all I have to say. I'm just going to say before we go and I forget, and we can get off topic here because we have to wrap up. We're notorious for going over time. Thank you, Zimpro, for doing this. Thank you for stepping up and making me consciously aware of there's a lot more support out there than I ever thought there was. And I'm excited to see us, instead of competing against each other, that we are helping each other grow and thrive. And obviously that fits my mission. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, Kaylee, Zach, Zimpro team, for sponsoring the event.
And just helping create that common network of women that, I see them at different conferences and I see them at different conferences, and I may not have ever talked to them before, but now I know, we have something in common, and, we're all here to support each other.
Yeah. And I told Zach after the meeting, I said, my biggest takeaway for you guys is don't let this meeting die. This content can be sent out and used all year. People need to hear it all year. Keep it fresh in people's minds. And that is the way to thank Zimpro for doing that, is obviously not just this podcast, but we're going to probably have Kaylee back on. We're having Casey on. Maybe we'll do a House of Colors saying audio. That's probably a little more challenging, but maybe get a video of that. Just go do some styling tips in the future and just keep that mission alive. We're here to support you. And we want you we don't want you just to survive, because I know what it's like to barely survive. I want you to thrive, because that feeling of thriving with being who you are and not pretending to be somebody else it's just, I don't know, life-changing. Yeah, it's refreshing, but life-changing that I'm finally going to be 45 and can say, and I think that was one of the things they said, right? It takes time, wisdom, time, but to be the person I want to be. And people still love me. That's what people love about me. I get that from my customers. We loved how refreshing and honest you were in our product reviews. We just want more of that. And I'm like, Well, honesty is what you're going to get. You may not like the answer, but I'm going to be nice about it at least.
Yes, I've definitely learned, through the different, as you get out into the real world and you're working with different people, like, you're not going to click with everyone. Not everyone is going to like you, and you need to be okay with that as long as you're true to yourself and your authentic self whenever you show up.
Oh, yeah. I have no problem with as I tell people, I think, I fire customers versus them firing me because there's some people I just don't click with and I don't want to click with. And having that option is great. But I think that leads into a good action item.
Yep. That's what I was going to add.
What? I was going to say, I don't know if you're going to have the same one, but my action item is what lie have you been telling yourself?
Oh, that's a good one. My action item was just to show up as your authentic self.
And that goes into that. So
yeah.
If you're telling yourself a lie and you're putting on a show to cover because of that lie, you're not being authentic. So I think it goes hand in hand. And I think before you can be authentically you is what lies have you been telling yourself? I have to wear branded polo clothes to every event so people know what company I'm with. No, I don't. I can be Casey in bright colors and a different haircut, a different color, jewelry, bright lipstick. That can be me. And this is what you get.
Yep.
What is the lie you've been telling yourself?
I don't.
If we're going to give them this action item, do you have one?
I don't really have one. I've always had like points of doubt in, throughout professionally, personally, but it's more a hiccup, I would say, than like something that I'm always living by, I would say. And, sometimes, you think you're not good enough, and then you're like, you kind of look at your life and where you've come from and the different challenges you've overcame, and you're like, yeah, that's not true. I've done a lot of things and I work hard and I do what I need to do to get things done. And knowing that I think I've always been like I don't want to say people pleaser, but I've always, I always try to go out of my way and help everyone and try to keep things relatively, I don't want to say I don't like to stir the pot, but sometimes I stir the pot. And I guess picking and choosing when is the right time to do that and when to like sit back and let someone else take care of that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really.
So you feel versus, I guess, some things in your life in the past that it's not a good idea for me to stir the pot. But if you're living authentically to you and you see a problem, you need to address it.
Yes. And most of the time I do. I would say I've been in the past, I've been one to just kind of like jump as soon as I hear of a problem or something's bothering me or something's happening. I sometimes still do, but I'm a little bit more cautious on like, I'll sit and ruminate on things for a little bit longer and figure out, what is the best course of action. If I am going to stir the pot or cause some sort of, I don't want to say friction, but like, I don't want to say call people out, but like,
I think it's all how you do it. And that is the biggest thing I struggled with early in my career was I've always had good intentions, but I was awful on how I delivered those good intentions.
Yes. And I know that I've gotten caught on that before, personally and professionally, like sometimes just like the way I say things come across not how I wanted them to be.
Oh, yeah.
Or the person on the receiving end of that took it a completely wrong direction. And then it starts more problems. And I guess recognizing how I approach different things and making sure that if I'm not 100% sure personally on how to do that or one-on-one, I will bring in a team member or someone or I'll bounce an idea off someone and say, I'm not sure, this is my take on this, what's your take on this? And like if our conclusions are relatively similar, then I'm like, okay, so I'm not in the wrong. I don't want to say not in the wrong, but I'm not feeling the way I am. The way I'm feeling is justified, I should say.
So you can still be yourself. You're just cautiously of how, like, the timing of it.
Yeah, I would say at least I've tried to be a little bit more cautious on that. I don't know. That's not really a lie I tell myself, but
no, your lie you're telling yourself is to trust your gut instincts, and you've realized over time that you need to reevaluate the gut instinct. And I would say the same thing for me. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, that's a good thing to think about, because if you're always reacting and stirring the pot, that causes a lot of friction and drama in your life. But if you're on the total opposite of how your supervisor may tell you to be, because I've been in both situations, that you feel like you're going to be a lie, that I shouldn't say anything. And I think you've grown, Morgan. So that is a lie you've been telling yourself, or in the past, of how to handle this. So I can be authentically me, but yet I don't offend others. And I think you just gave a great example. And this is, ladies and gentlemen listening, this is what we want the action items to be, is like, reflect on this, journal on this. You don't have us to talk about. If you need to go through this exercise like Morgan and I just did, because you need somebody to talk to, let us know. We're there, right? We'll go through it with you. But your journal is a good place also to do that. And so these action items are for you to think on things, to grow and to do better. And I think Morgan, like, oh, I haven't been telling myself any lies. I'm just completely honest. I'm like the perfect Morgan. And she brought up some skeletons. So I think that's really good. And I did a fun one, but I could bring up some very hard skeletons as well, Morgan, on lies I've been telling yourself. That sounds like a series of episodes to cover.
Well, lies.
Or not. Sorry. Lies. Cut that. Not the real people. Coffee in the barn. I'm getting confused.
And I think I've always worn my emotions on my sleeve. Like I don't hide much. I show up as my authentic self 99% of the time. And it's sometimes, and I think, kind of going back to I think sometimes when you have people from the outside that might not necessarily know you, and they say something about you, and it makes you kind of question, or like you start believing what they said, I would classify that as, I guess, a lie that I might have believed for a very short period of time. And that's, part of the phases of life and growing up. And, someone makes a comment about something and then you kind of start believing it. And after like a couple days, you're like, but then just like the more you think about it, you're like, that's not true at all. Like, how does that make any sense? And it just kind of goes back to, not everyone's going to like you, and everyone's going to have their own opinions about how they think you should be. And like, it's just the way that human people are.
Yeah. I think that is the takeaway from the Zimpro event and our action items, and the whole purpose of Coffee in the Barn, and why Zimpro, we're not going to let this die, because we want people to realize it's okay, not everybody likes me in life. And so we're going to dive more into that, Morgan, because I think we're uncovering something here. And I'm not a therapist, but I think that's a good topic to talk about for future episodes of what's our skeletons and what's holding us back or irritates us. So I think those are some fun stuff coming up. Thanks again, Zimpro. What a lovely conversation. And until next week, everybody.
See you later.
Yeah, keep fueled with your coffee.